spawning in the red, playing as the Ottoman Empire. It is AltCtrl doing his wonderful Ottoman things, and spawning in the southwest, playing as the Delhi Sultanate, a rather personal favorite of mine. It is ISanych playing as the color blue. ISanych doing the very proper things when it comes to a Delhi build order. A little bit different I've seen in some Delhi build orders, where when you're going for the straggler tree with these 5 villagers that build the mill and drop off, sometimes they'll take 1 round of chops, sometimes they'll take a 2nd round. He goes for the 1 round of chops, and then hopefully he will go ahead and go on to that straggler tree when he needs that lumber camp eventually. But Mosque going up, getting efficient production, getting piety, all the things that he is supposed to do now. AltCtrl on the other side for the Ottoman Empire. There's 2 different builds that people like to do in Dark Age. You know, military school, no military school. As a Phantom Scout picked up that sheet. Going for the non-military school opening as the Ottomans, and I'm curious to see, because he doesn't go with that initial military school, obviously his feudal age is going to be a little bit better than most Ottomans with the military school, but we will see how that translates to more feudal map control, because when we're talking about the Delhi Sultanate, we got to take a look at these ever popular sacred sites along with our mighty infantry standing guard beside it. So we have 1 in the middle, 1 in the east, 1 in the west, which is rather normal of a spawn. There's nothing in this map that makes me think, oh, this map is kind of favored for Delhi for the sacred, as far as the sacred sites are concerned, or for AltCtrl. They seem to be at a fixed distance away from both town centers, so not much of an advantage going to be going on either side. But one of the things that I can appreciate AltCtrl actually not going for a military school at this point in time is because of how far back this gold is for ISanych. I feel like it would be rather difficult if AltCtrl were to try to do that. It could be a little difficult for him to pull off any kind of Dark Age aggression, and to the point where it would delay ISanych. So overall pretty good. ISanych also getting a decent amount of sheep with that scout, both going with 1 scout as the Ottomans and the Delhi. And 1 scout seems to be a more popular thing in the top levels, as I've been watching over the past few weeks. And I know I'm dating myself here, but back in Season 2, months ago, you always went 2 scouts until proven otherwise. And except if you're the Rus, you make 3, obviously. But rather different nowadays. Rather 1 scout going for each player, getting that extra villager makes it a little more beneficial. ISanych and AltCtrl going up at just about the same time, and I think they'll get up there at about the same time, with ISanych choosing to go for the Tower of Victory. Just to explain it, as because it's the first Delhi game that we are going to see, enables Tower of Victory, Mosque, and Madrasas to increase the attack speed of infantry by plus 20% when produced within their influence. Now this infantry is what a lot of people think. If you're a past AoE 2 player, you might be thinking infantry as just melee units, but it is all foot soldiers for the Delhi Sultanate. So archers, spearmen, men-at-arms alike will be a part of that. And the Ottomans, in good fashion, going with the twin minaret madrasa, which acts as a mill, grows those berry bushes, which will make them harvest it just a little bit faster. And as you can see, when the berry bushes actually do get spawned, which is just food source, those berries have those nice little wickets around it, just like the Delhi Sultanate berries do. Now, with this build, with the Tower of Victory, it's important not only to get your research out of the mosque, which is what he's doing, and prioritizing sanctity, which is more important, but at the same time, you still need a decent amount of wood going up into the feudal age, because you need that second mosque. That first mosque is going to be getting your religion, or your upgrades. Your second mosque is going to be pumping out scholars, because you're going to need those scholars in the feudal age battles that are yet to come. And as we can see, that second mosque right there producing scholars rather efficiently, and more efficient than the Dome of the Faith. I am curious to see what AltCtrl is doing up north, dropping his military school. And this is a rather peculiar matchup in just about, you know, the 5-minute, 5:30 mark. Not a lot of Dark Age aggression out of both civs. Delhi's not one to be known to have Dark Age aggression. AltCtrl elected not to go for the military school, so not much in the way of units, and the first actual military unit is getting produced at about the 6-minute mark, a little bit delayed than normal, which is a spearman at no cost to AltCtrl and his resource bank. ISanych going for more of the usual Delhi style with the second blacksmith. Got to make sure you're getting all those techs, because in a feudal age battle, when you're trying to get those sacred sites, when you're trying to establish map control, which ultimately snowballs yourself to a win, got to make sure you get those upgrades before the battle starts. And ISanich's first military production building, which is rather important for the Delhi Sultanate, is a stable. So he will be pumping out a horseman on that. And it looks like AltCtrl going for archers, actually, out of the military school, which is rather different. I usually see in military schools people going for Sipahi, and at least one going for a meter, because the meter, I know it's very minutia, but when we're talking about these pro players, that minutia could propel you to a victory. Those meter producing, as far as resources generated per second or resources getting back per second, meter is more valuable for him. And now AltCtrl finally stepping out into the middle of the map. This middle sacred site going to try to build an outpost. Now remember, a lot of these outposts take a little bit longer to build than they used to be. So it's only at about 25% health. Scholar not able to take this middle sacred site because of the scout and because of AltCtrl spearman that's there. But a horseman coming in, trying to pick off this villager. AltCtrl has not noticed this yet, or believes that he might be able to take out the horseman beforehand. But ISanych getting there just in time with about half health on that horseman, vacates the premises just because of the horseman's speed. And hopefully he runs back home eventually and tells all of the lovely Delhi Sultanites the deeds that he has done. And this outpost will remain at half build. Delhi's a rather micro-heavy civilization to play, because you have so many things that you're worried about at every point in time. You have 3 sacred sites you're trying to watch over at the same time, and you see this western one gets captured, this eastern one about to get captured by ISanych at about the 8:15 mark. You're also worried about your base at the same time. So 4 main points of interest for the Delhi Sultanate in feudal age, and sometimes it leads to some of these small issues like this. Maybe one horseman coming in, a horseman that you would love to have later in these fights, and it actually, as we click on the stable, a little bit of a waypoint issue in the middle of this middle sacred site, that horseman going over there, but that's okay. I'm sure he will correct that eventually. AltCtrl going for a defense that I don't usually see that often anymore when it comes to playing against Delhi Sultanate, trying to put those outposts down a little early. And I think the reason why is kind of like this. Delhi's able to get their units, and because of how slow it is to actually make those outposts, it becomes rather difficult. But only 3 horsemen in this fight with the scholar for ISanych, so that scholar might be as good as dead if those forces have to vacate. And that scholar actually gets trapped as I zoom in there, and you can hear the last gasp of air that scholar breathes. Got trapped in the middle of those Sipahi. Not good for him. Now that he's got this middle outpost up, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for ISanych to take this sacred site. Only has a couple scholars coming in, because this is now a fortified outpost. As we take a look, having 5 fire armor makes it a little difficult for this outpost to actually get down. And this will be beneficial if AltCtrl decides to take a fight in this particular area. It looks like ISanych is not vacating the premises, which I assumed he would. And now he starts to retreat south. That Ottoman snowball, as we can see, because these military schools, because of this military production, that the Ottomans are able to do. You can start to see that snowball, but those spearmen start to turn around and think, wait, we have spears. They have horses. We should win this. And they do. 3 or 4 horsemen. Sipahi, I should say, for AltCtrl going down into making that battle. Military count 30 to 26. 31 to 26, excuse me, in favor of ISanych. He's continuing to use that efficient production out of these buildings, which is going to be really effective for him and really combat this Ottoman snowball that we're seeing around this blacksmith, having that military unit production rate increase. These spearmen, a little bit quicker, 12 seconds a pop. The only way to stop that is because of your own efficient production, which is what ISanych is doing very well. And also, as we've seen from the top part of this map, how well he is doing at producing units effectively, keeping up with AltCtrl. Military count 34 to 30. Now, ISanych has had a little bit of time with these sacred sites. Not enough to actually go up to castle, and usually if a Delhi player is rather uncontested, they can make some remarkably impressive castle ages. But it looks like ISanych will not be able to do that. Ottomans getting in there just in time before that other sacred site gets captured. Looks like mostly spearmen, mostly horsemen coming in from ISanych, and all 3 for the form of AltCtrl. Those horsemen trying to get a good surround on those Ottoman archers. Doesn't look like they'll be able to, but they'll be able to chase them. There's a couple spearmen back there, which could provide some benefit and some defensive support to those archers. Look at that micro from ISanych coming around, picking off these Sipahi, making them kind of retreat in this battle. One thing about ISanych, though, not much in the way of archer count for this battle, and you can see for AltCtrl, his military has a decent amount of spearmen here. They will get eaten alive by those spearmen, as you can see. AltCtrl getting that defender's advantage, turning around, trying to take this fight yet again. And he still has to back up. It's just the power of these 2 scholars and how well they can heal. And think about it, especially with this horseman at about 20 health. When they have a ceasefire, it's like having a new horseman all over again. AltCtrl doesn't have that power unless he went particularly for the Imam Vizier point, which it looks like he has not yet. And like every game I cast with the meta, we're going to zoom in, and I'm going to stay quiet for just 2 seconds so you guys can hear these bongos. Yeah, there you go. That's the sound of music, ladies and gentlemen. Just like I said before, these horsemen getting healed up. Good amount of scholar production, and when you're playing with the Tower of Victory and being able to produce these scholars at a rather effective rate, a lot better than you can with Dome of the Faith, all of a sudden ISanych has 8 scholars, 1 on the way, and we'll be able to use them in the fight. And I think ISanich's main strategy in this going into this game was having the Tower of Victory, having these units, their attack speed increased by 20, and having the scholars behind it could stop any kind of Ottoman feudal all-in, so to speak. And it looks like ISanych is holding his own and making sure his entire army doesn't get wiped. But here we go. This outpost will not be burned down. Decent amount of archers in this fight for ISanych now. Going to be able to micro those spearmen if he's able to. Only about 2 or 3 Sipahi, so they will go down rather quickly because of how many spearmen are here. Spearmen making the majority of the front line for both players. Horsemen on both sides actually going down, except for 1 on the Delhi side. Not going to get a surround with 1, my friend. But these scholars doing a good job of healing, and archers fighting these spearmen, which are supposed to be the unit that they take down most efficiently, continue to be healed. And I'm clicking on this hardened spearman so you can see how many arrow shots he actually took. And with a couple reinforced horsemen coming over here, AltCtrl has to back up again. This back mass of archers, only 8 archers, but they were able to consistently fire throughout the entire process. AltCtrl's archers not really able to do that. And now with these outposts, one of the things and the reason why a lot of players don't do this against Delhi anymore is because of the amount of scholars they bring into the fight. We're watching this arrow slit hit this archer. It doesn't matter. He can do this all over again. He's got the power of whatever deity that the Delhi Sultanate have, healing this archer up like it never even happened, so this tower's going to end up going down. At the same time, Eastern Sacred Site taken by ISanych. No walls around it, as we've seen throughout the course of this game. And now we have this Delhi mass. Pretty sure it's Allah. Thank you, Adbranko. I'd like to think you're right, but I wasn't sure if there was a Hindu element to it. But now we have this Delhi mass with a good 1-1-1 build, only about 5 horsemen. Majority of AltCtrl's army, essentially archers, with only 5 or 6 spearmen. No scholars in this one. All 7, 8 of these scholars are back here just minding their own business. Probably talking about whatever religious studies course they had last. But it looks like based on this fight, they're not really needed. Archers all the way in the back. Getting some good hits on the archers. And all of this production to prevent this Ottoman mass from getting even bigger. They're not going to be able to mass. But here we go with 3 or 4 Sipahi. Now the scholars are getting into it. They're done with their little philosophical argument, and they're going to come in and heal these guys. Only about 1 or 2 horsemen here will be going down. Sipahi going down. These cavalry units coming out of both sides, rather difficult to keep alive. And we actually have a horseman raid over here on the east side. Look at that. 1, 2 villagers going down. And Sipahi, economic count 54 to 46. AltCtrl all the way in the back of his own base. He's got nowhere to go. He's got nothing to do. He's trying to build some defensive outposts back here, which, yes, could provide a little bit of comfort for him, but at the same time, they can only house 5 villagers. You spent about 20 to build that. And AltCtrl's army completely destroyed, with military count of 52 to 3. And now with all of these scholars essentially kite, bring these horsemen, these spearmen, making sure they're getting healed effectively. They can't die under this defensive fire, and I like the idea of what AltCtrl was trying to do, but I don't think it's going to be very effective with how many scholars there are. All of these villagers over here on these berries going down. AltCtrl doesn't see a way out of this and ends up calling it, with ISanych as the Delhi Sultanate taking this game in round 2. And remember, this is the best of 1, so ISanych will be moving over to round 3 when the tournament calls for it. So let's take a little bit of a post-game analysis look on both of these guys. Villager count, maybe a little bit of idle time coming out of AltCtrl. 1 or 2 villagers and very high level of play do make a difference. And then obviously these raids at the end when the Ottoman Empire was forced to fight behind its town center. But the amount of scholars that ISanych had didn't really make much of a difference. And I think at this particular game, we saw the power of the Tower of Victory against the Ottomans. Having that plus 20% and that healing, having both of those at the same time, your DPS are more DPS-y, your tank units are more DPS-y, and you're able to get all that damage on the Ottomans and prevent them from getting that big mass of units that they just try to cram down your throat. Military counts, we can see here ISanich's doing a good job of producing his units efficiently with scholars in those military buildings, and ISanych kind of had a military count lead for the mainstay of this game. And because they're improved, because they're healing, it's very difficult to stop that from happening. And notice too, because of having Tower of Victory and having that healing power in feudal, he was okay with not going to castle. A lot of Delhi players who choose to go for Tower of Victory, or Dome of the Faith, excuse me, think of it as a means to an end to get up to castle, to get to that power spike that Delhi is so good at with their armored units. ISanych showing in this victory that he did not need to do that, playing the game in Feudal Age and ending it in Feudal Age. So classic, textbook Delhi game.
We want to thank our MetaPlays website subscribers. Your contribution helps us keep the project sustainable. As we reach higher subscription goals, you are helping us cover more and more behind-the-scenes costs, such as video editing. Check out our subscription page using the link in the description, and remember to collect your perks. We will see you the next time.